this regular council meeting to order at 6:02. And Pam, could I ask for a roll call, please?
Yes, you may.
But you might not do it.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Mark Kittle.
Here.
Jennifer Riffle.
Present.
Auden Schendler.
Here.
Katie Schwer.
Here.
Bernie Grauer.
Here.
Gary Tenenbaum. Jackie Whitson.
Here. Hey, Bernie, would you like to read the Basalt is an inclusive for us?
Sure.
Thanks.
Basalt is an inclusive, sustainable mountain community that boasts historic charm and progressive vision. It is an engaging place to live, work, and play while offering an abundance of creative, professional, educational, and recreational outlets.
Thank you, Bern. That's our positive words for the beginning, right? Okay, our next item is the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda are the minutes, the appointments that are being made, and it looks like a continuance of another item. So on the appointments, I just wanted to say who those people are really quick. So we have community committees where volunteers in the community without pay serve on our committees and give us feedback and thoughts on specific issues. So the first appointment to the Parks and Open Space Committee is Glenn Drummond, and I don't see him, but he lives in Valley Pines. The next one is to BPAC, and that's Basalt. Public Arts, thank you very much. And that appointment is to Bear Matthews, and Bear is a student at, did I say that wrong? Somebody's given me, okay. It's Bear? Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't positive it was Bear. But he's a student at Basalt High School, which is great because we don't normally get high school students stepping up to the plate like this. And then reappointments are Hannah Condon, Jeff Orsolak, and Missy Hagan. And the other, could somebody tell me what other is? Is that
the mayor? What that is Guinevere. It was just an acknowledgement. Guinevere Jones was actually appointed as an in-town representative, and she teaches art at the middle school, and she just moved out of town, so
okay.
She's moving from one status to another, and there's still we're short members from the in-town representation, but we have 2 vacancies, so we hope to be able to fill that.
Well, I think that's great. If she was appointed in town, that she can hang for as long as whatever. So anyway, that's on the consent agenda. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Next item is call to the public, which is includes anything that's not on the agenda. We really, really love to hear positive comments and gratitudes about living in Basalt. But if there's somebody in the public that wants to make comments about something that is not on the agenda, please step up to the microphone and feel free.
3 minutes, ma'am.
3 minutes. We have a 3-minute time limit. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Toni Kronberg, and first I'd like to thank Bernie and Mark very much for their 4 years of service on the Basalt Town Council, and we're really sad to see you go. You really made a lot of positive contributions to the town of Basalt. And then with that being said, I'd also like to welcome Bill Infante and Ryan Slack to the new council. I understand they're going to be probably sworn in at the next meeting, or is it tonight?
Bill is here tonight.
Okay.
Ryan will be here at the next meeting.
Okay. So with that being said, that summer's beginning, and as most of you know, everyone's looking forward to the pool opening up, the Basalt Municipal Pool. Is there someone here that
No,
wants
I'm
to say
sorry.
hi
I'm
to?
just acknowledging someone I
Oh,
know.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
good. Like someone surprising me?
No. Yes, they're coming up from behind.
I know it's not my birthday. So what I have done is the purpose of my talk tonight is that I think most of you are aware, because I've spoken to the town council before, is that one of the things that I would like to add to the Albany Park Municipal Pool is a hot tub. And there's a process that the town of Basalt goes through in order to see if there's public support for it. And I put together a really quick slideshow so I don't go over my 3 minutes. And so the very first one is the Basalt Municipal Pool. It's a great pool. And why is it a great pool? guess James is gonna operate the slides. Okay, thank you. Okay. So it's a great pool because the Albany Park, the swimming pool's got small town character with an Olympic-sized pool. It is the only Olympic-sized outside pool in this whole area. And what makes Basalt's pool stand out is you have a separate diving area. You're the only pool that doesn't have your diving board in the middle of your lap pool. And that is a real plus. In addition, you also have a separate toddler area, and then you have a fenced-in kiddie pool area. And then I put a few other things. It's 6-lane, 25 feet long. Its ability to be multi-use. It has a concession stand, shade areas, concrete and grass area, and plenty of parking. So the third slide is, but there's one thing that's missing. And the thing that's missing is a hot tub, also known as a small warm water pool. And this here is an example of the hot tub, small water pool that I would like to bring forward to the town council. Okay, James, the only two pools that don't have a hot tub is Rifle Municipal Pool and Carbondale, but Carbondale is just on a survey and they want to redo their outside pool and make it brand new, so to speak, and they will be including a hot tub in that. So, wanting to know how can we get a hot tub included at the Albany Park, there's a process that you go through. So, the tub that I'm going to propose is called the Endless Hot Tub, so much more than a hot tub. And I looked into the Basalt master
Was
plan.
that the timer, Pam?
It's 3 minutes.
Is it?
3 minutes, yeah.
Okay,
So give it 5 seconds.
okay, okay, so we can go to the very last slide. Okay, so, the 3 minutes, I'm sorry, I should have realized that when I started speaking, that when I turned around and whatnot, I was losing valuable seconds. But anyway, the very last slide, this is the hot tub that I'm gonna propose, ready to take the plunge, delivery time is in 6 weeks. Post committee is meeting tomorrow. I'm gonna bring forward that recommendation. Then they're gonna have 2 public open houses, in May, and I'm going to ask that this be included in the public open houses for public to make comment on.
Thank you,
And
Tony.
I have a hard copy.
Thank you,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Very much. I just wanted to interrupt myself for a second. Glenn Drummond, were you in here when we announced your appointment? No. We announced your appointment, okay. So, back to public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Anybody else? Okay, mayor and council comments. Anybody?
I had another meeting today. It's a special day.
Are you pointing out that he looks especially attractive?
The shirt's not tucked in, don't worry. That came out a while ago.
Anybody? Okay, then I will just quickly say that last week had some fun things. There was the river cleanup, which I think was, what day was it? Saturday. Thank you. So, yes, there was snow on the ground, but people showed up in mass like they always do. And then yesterday was the Earth Day Parade, which is my favorite day of all time, when looks like, I'm just guessing, 400 elementary kids march down here from the grade school and sing us a song that their choir teacher teaches them. They sing it in unison. I actually posted it on Facebook if you want to hear the song. But it's just much appreciated in super small town wonderful that we have these things. They may do them in cities, but it can't be the same, I'm sure. Okay, manager, sir, Ryan Mahoney.
Yes, I have a couple of things here. So the first is we received, thank you. We received an email asking for support from this council in the form of a letter, and as well, if we so choose, to support financially, I think $1,000 was the request, for a monument that's going to be put up. It's in next to the coke ovens in Redstone. It's on Pitkin County-owned land, and it's essentially honoring those that were part of the coal mining days here in the valley, and sort of honoring where we were and where we've come since that point in time. So just wanted to get direction from you all as far as writing a letter of support, and or if you wanted to put any financial support.
Was that the letter from Dorothea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if anybody who doesn't know, Dorothea works with this group, and she is a past Pitkin County Commissioner, and I guess I would just put it to the group. Is there anybody has a problem with us writing a letter of support?
No issue with words.
I think we're good.
Okay, great, thank you. The second is just a quick update for you. We are sending a staff person, but then Councilman Tenenbaum asked that maybe we let you all know, Northwest COG, the Northwest Colorado Council of Governments, is having an economic development summit that's on Friday, May 4th, and it's an all-day deal in Silverthorne. And there's a number of different speakers, and it's sort of a 101, I think, with regard to economic development, but then it takes a deeper dive and gets more specific for, you know, regional interests with regard to developing our economy. So if anybody's interested in attending that, you can let us know, and we could help facilitate signing you up. A couple other quick updates. Four Seasons, who does our mowing and flower beds, they're now in full swing. So they were out in Willits today. Yesterday they took care of Town Hall Park. They've been amending a number of the flower beds here. So they are starting in earnest. So we'll see them out and about.
You just got done.
Can I have longer than 3 minutes? 5 seconds? Okay.
The look on your face was worth like $1 trillion.
Let's see. On Sopris Circle, we're doing a little drainage improvement that should be completed likely tomorrow. And we had a storm drain that would continuously back up, and so we're taking care of that. The Real America Project. So we've had a number of families move in. All but one of the apartments is ready to go. About 20 families moved in 2 weeks ago. They're not quite ready to have all 56 move in. They're slowly going through those approvals, but that's great. And they're going to have an opening in June timeframe. So we'll make sure that you all get an invite to that. And then make sure I didn't have one other thing. I did. So sales tax for the month came in for March, and it is tracking very well. We were actually up about 9% over March of last year, and for the year we're up 12%. So sales tax is doing quite well. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Okay, the next item is presentation and resolution 6, adoption of hazard mitigation plan. Valerie and Greg.
Good evening.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Val.
Greg Knott, Basalt Police Department. This is Valerie McDonald, who's the Pickton County Emergency Manager. Valerie has spearheaded this effort to update the 2012 Pickton County Hazard Mitigation Plan. The federal government, FEMA, requires that to be updated every 5 years, so this is a collaborative effort amongst many agencies within the valley, also within the town, Public Works, Planning, Police Department. So I kind of kick it to Valerie. This has been her project. She's done an amazing job on it, so let her give you the brief background on it and what it is.
Good evening. I'm so happy we're in the final stretch of this project. And I'd like to thank Basalt, the town of Basalt, for participating in the update of the county hazard mitigation plan. We've been working on this for the last year. It's a 167-page plan. It's essentially a book. The overview I'm about to give you is 5 minutes, so there will be time for any questions you might have at the end. I assure you there's nothing in this plan that the Department of Homeland Security, Office of Emergency Management, or FEMA didn't require, with one exception I'll get to in a few minutes. In a nutshell, the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 requires that counties update their hazard mitigation plan every 5 years. So this new plan will replace our plan from 2012. Municipalities need to be named in the plan as participating jurisdictions in order for you to remain eligible for those grants as well. As Greg mentioned, the project was facilitated by County Emergency Management, but it was a very collaborative effort. Town of Basalt, City of Aspen, Town of Snowmass Village, and then the Basalt, Aspen, and Snowmass Fire Protection Districts are also participating jurisdictions. It really demonstrates the ongoing commitment that we all have to reducing risks to people and property posed by natural disaster. The plan specifically deals with natural disasters. The FEMA process requires that we assemble all stakeholders and, simply put, we identify, assess, and then develop mitigation strategies for natural disasters. We had people from all jurisdictions and disciplines participate. We had a great turnout, which makes us unique in the state. Most emergency managers can't get people to these meetings. We held 2 5-hour workshops. Over 80 people participated in the workshops and then also in the job-specific surveys. And that level of participation is required by FEMA to get these plans approved. So it's a heavy lift. I know I just made it sound simple, but there's really nothing simple about it, hence the need for a contractor. There's a whole industry built around this because a mere mortal can't get through the 200 pages of FEMA guidance and all the approval crosswalks. So the county applied for and got a federal grant, so we had a contractor guide us through the process. Our goal statement was reduce the potential for impacts on human life and safety, property loss, and damage to critical facilities and the natural environment by natural hazards. And I need to mention that we don't wait for 5 years to do this. I mean, through the Pickens County Public Safety Council, which includes emergency management and all of our public safety agencies in the entire valley and support agencies, this is an ongoing conversation. But this 5-year formal process is about remaining eligible for these pre- and post-disaster grants, and we will do it every 5 years. There was some value in the process. I mean, rarely do we get this huge of a multidisciplinary and multi-jurisdictional group together. When you read the almost 200 pages of guidance, it's more about the process than the actual book that we produce. Our updated plan has already been through a 30-day stakeholder and public review process. It was then sent to Colorado Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management for their review and approval, and most recently, we've gotten it through FEMA. It's approvable pending adoption, which is a FEMA term. All 7 of the participating jurisdictions need to adopt the plan. I need to have all seven resolutions by the middle of May because of the grant timeline. Talk just very briefly about the results of the plan. I mean, we're very fortunate in Pickens County. We haven't suffered a major catastrophic natural disaster here. I mean, I talk to people every single day in my job that it's almost like, why are you talking to me? We live in paradise. We don't have disasters here. And to them, I would say we're very fortunate, we are overdue, and we're perfectly primed for a catastrophic wildfire here, and anything else could happen here as well. I mean, I would suspect those people in California did not think it would happen there last fall either. So internally, we train, we plan, and we practice as though it can happen today. We discussed 8 natural hazards. Not surprisingly, the 3 top hazards in all jurisdictions are wildfire, geologic events, and flooding. And if you want a visual of that, again, think of California last fall. Then we developed mitigation strategies, and most of them are carryovers from 2012, and there are new actions as well, but it's never-ending work. It doesn't end. We did do one thing different. I mentioned there's one thing in this plan the feds and the state did not require, and that is we looked at how climate change is going to impact our natural hazards going forward, and we're the first county in the state to do that. And I'm going to stop here. I mean, this is a really high-level presentation. I definitely recommend you don't get bogged down in the minutia in this plan, but I will take any questions you have.
A couple of things that might answer your questions. So part of town being in Eagle County, the federal government requires that we're part of one. So we could be part of Eagle or part of Pitkin County's plan. Since we adopted in 2012 the plan, I felt it was logical just to move it and continue with the plan update for Pitkin County. But all the hazards would be the same identified hazards in both plans. And then, so questions? that you
Yeah,
might have?
questions, anybody? Auden?
So that's awesome that they have climate in there, that you have climate in there. That's super progressive. My question is, how does this plan go from big chunk of paper to action? And so here's a specific example. Greg, you and I talked about behind the old recycling center, that hillside is just a disaster, like waiting to happen. You could, it's a wildfire that would then spread into town. Is there a mechanism through this plan that we could do a pilot project?
Yeah, and great question. And so with that, and through the identification of natural hazards, we've already started those conversations with the fire department, and then being a stakeholder in this, we're identifying projects that we can do to minimize that risk. That's one of those projects that are identified. Ryan's been working, I've been working with the fire department.
Oh, awesome.
So we're hoping to have that pilot project on a wildfire mitigation in that area, just for
And is
that
that,
reason.
do we have to pay for it, or is there money available?
No, we're looking for volunteered time from service providers that do it. Also, the work of our Public Works Department, which Boyd's been in these discussions, the fire department, and then community involvement too.
That's
To
great.
lessen those costs as far down as we can. It might be in the 1,000 range versus the tens of thousands range.
Wildfire mitigation does not cost that much money. There's a lot that people
Good to
can do
know.
that costs very little or nothing that would definitely improve their chances of survival.
Others? Questions? Thank you. Oh,
So,
go ahead,
Mrs.
yes,
Mayor,
sir.
before you tonight, there's a resolution to adopt
Right.
the hazard mitigation plan update of 2018, if council so chooses.
We probably so choose.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt the 2018 Pitkin County Hazard Mitigation Plan Update Hazard.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down.
Did you actually come down, Valerie, or do you live down here?
I actually came down.
That's awesome.
I got through the gauntlet.
You came at rush hour. How awesome of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I just see that Jeff Ursulek came into the room. Jeff, we made your appointment, I think, before you got here, so I just want to recognize the fact that you were reappointed. Did you know you were being reappointed to BPAC? Did you want to be reappointed? Okay, yay. All right. Our next item is the Martinez lawsuit to determine if council wishes to sign into the Boulder County amicus brief urging the Colorado Supreme Court to adopt the appellate court ruling in Martinez v. Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. And I'm going to let Ryan kick this off, but I also talked to Auden a little bit about it and read a piece that was forwarded to me. So Ryan, do you want to?
Sure, I'll give you sort of high level. I had read the newspaper article that Auden had forwarded to us, as well as the amicus brief, and I was able to understand the newspaper article with greater clarity.
Yeah.
The amicus brief, of course, is filled with legalese, and they are asking us to sign on to it. Boulder County, their attorneys had prepared it. There are a few other entities that have already signed on. Those include Boulder County, San Miguel County, Gunnison County, the City of Boulder, Erie, Northwest Cog, Longmont, and Lafayette. And they have sent it out to others to see if they would consider as well. But essentially what it does is it urges the Colorado Supreme Court to adopt the appellate court ruling in this Martinez versus the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. And it basically said that there was a discrepancy between a term in the manner consistent with as it relates to the rulemaking for oil and gas. And what that, in a manner consistent with discrepancy, was having to do with was the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare, as well as wildlife and the environment. And from what I can tell, the COGCC basically said They would not adopt a rule that was presented to them that strictly, had their decisions on rulemaking based in science, and saying that there would be no effects to public health, safety, and welfare in a sort of cumulative manner. And they said they wouldn't do it, so that prompted the lawsuit. And at this point in time, the industry, as well as the Colorado Attorney General, are saying they don't support this being held by or reviewed by the Supreme Court, and they would like to see it, essentially go away. But the opinion of the COGCC was that they basically make their rules to find balance between the industry interests and those of the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And the plaintiff said the public health, safety, and welfare is absolute.
Right.
So that, in a nutshell, is what I understand of it. As far as us signing on to it, I don't think that there's, anything further than that. There would just be, basically a show of support for this effort.
Right. Auden, did you have anything more to say about this?
Well, this is just basically pushing back on the gas industry and saying that health and safety needs to be a higher priority. Whether you think the ask is too onerous, which I think the oil and gas industry is saying, to me, it's worth supporting because it's pushing a little further. And we have examples west of here where you've got pollution from wells that are too close to towns. So I think it's fine to support this, and the conversation that it will spark is super useful.
That's kind of what I got. I thought what you said at the very end was what I got out of it, is that the oil and gas industry want a balance between money and health, and the plaintiffs want health to be uber alles. So, anybody have comments, questions, or a motion?
Mayor, I move that the town council sign on to the Boulder County amicus brief in support of the appellate court ruling of Martinez versus Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission.
Thanks. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Ryan and Auden. Okay, next item is a continued public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 6, series of 2018, an ordinance of the town granting special review and site plan review approval for the development of residential dwelling units in the industrial zone district at 11 Durox Lane, Basalt. Sarah,
All right, thank you.
this is the other reason you're here.
Yeah, I'm double dipping.
This is the
Sorry,
reason I
I was
think.
late for the first, early for the second.
So Sarah Nadolny with the town's planning department, and here today representing the project is Jeff Orsolak. We also have the applicant, Ren Cunningham, is in the audience tonight. And this is second reading of ordinance number 6, requesting special review and site plan review approvals at 11 Durox Lane. This is the second reading, so I'm just going to give you a
Sure.
quick recap of what we discussed during first reading 2 weeks ago. So just to remind you where this is located, it is situated here on the corner of Willets Lane and Durox Lane. It is Lot 4 of the Basalt Industrial Park, and it is located in the Industrial Zone District. The applicant is proposing to add 3 multifamily residential units above the existing commercial building. The commercial building on the site, to remind you, is the applicant's business. It's Helper's Home Restoration LLC. And I'll show you the site plan, just give you a reminder of how the site works. Again, we're on the corner here. We have an existing pocket park here. There is the building that is looking to be transformed with a second-story residential. We do have some parking for the residential at the rear of the site, which is separated by access and a fence from the industrial use. And the industrial use and the parking for that is on the front of the site. So at first reading, council, you asked for more information on a few items, and primarily this was regarding the proposed water agreement and what staff has been referring to as Durox Park, and the sign in the park actually refers to it as Leroy's Corner. So the directors unfortunately were unable to attend the meeting tonight, but this request did begin with them and stems from their history with the site. So the first question that you wanted to address was, how will the water be provided to the park by the applicant? We did meet on site with the applicant, had Parks there, a representative from Public Works and myself. I met with Red and were able to walk the site and the park as well. And it was agreed upon that he would be able to run a water line to the exterior of the fenced area and create a new hose bib at that location. And you can kind of see, here's the fencing, the existing commercial, here's the fencing, and here is the beginning of the parkland site. So the new hose bib could be connected just outside of the fenced area, and that would preclude town staff from having to really enter the property and interfere with you know, the coming goings of the trucks on the site. And the line would be maintained by the applicant. The second point was a discussion around the fee reduction that was proposed by staff related to the parkland dedication fees. So the addition of the 3 residential units will require an assessment of parkland dedication fee for each unit, and approximately, it's been estimated about 10 grand per unit. Staff has proposed a reduction of these fees by $2,591 per unit. There's a methodology that we did include in the packet, and I'll be happy to you know, answer questions about that if you have any, if you're able to review that. So staff is proposing this reduction to be offered in exchange for the ability to utilize the water from the applicant's tap as well as the associated infrastructure into the future. Mr. Cunningham would be incurring expenses to extend that water line and for the infrastructure that we are requesting. So why should we do this? This is a park area. I included some pictures. Park area that's owned by the town, should be maintained by the town. It includes some benches, some trees, plants, shrubs. It does have a bit of historical signage attached to it. This is a valuable green space. It softens the entry to the industrial area. It serves as a nice amenity for cyclists that are coming off the Rio Grande Trail just up the road. And the applicant is agreeing that this deal will guarantee the town to have access to water so that we can better maintain this park that could use a little bit of love right now. So we want to keep this park looking healthy and better, and it is, you know, maintained as an attractive amenity. Staff feels that the parkland dedication fee or the reduction is an appropriate, you know, trade in order to be able to get this water line that'll help us achieve this goal of maintaining a healthy park. So again, you know, staff believes this is a fair and appropriate reduction in the fees. And the third item that council wanted to discuss was the requirement that generally prohibits children from residing in the units unless it's approved through special review. We had previously requested to have 16 to 18-year-olds be able to reside in these units, and so council had said, well, what does that look like, a 2-year prorating of the school land dedication fees? And with speaking with the applicant, we have actually decided that's, you know, maybe not even really worth it, and just to kind of remove that from the table. And so to go with that code requirement of having no children under the age of 18 residing in these units. So no children and equals no school land dedication fees assessed towards the property. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the applicant's representative.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the time. Sorry I was late for the first part, but I appreciate the appointment. I think Sarah covered it all. The one thing that we wanted to kind of hope to bring into focus was that so the reduction in fee for the parkland dedication helps cover those taps that you would normally have assess as a town if you were to add that to water that site on your own. But one of the things it doesn't cover is you'd have to get to the water. So I think you're getting a pretty good value here where the reduction in the parkland dedication fee is paying for the taps, but you're getting all the infrastructure for free. And that's something you'd have to kind of do on your own, which I would venture to guess is probably twice that, if not more. So I think it's a good trade-off. I hope you guys feel it that way too. But we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Where did we leave this on?
I'm just wondering, were we just asking for further discussion on the water tap deal, or?
Yeah,
Oh.
my recollection is that, you know, not everyone on council was quite understanding or maybe comfortable with the reduction in fees and really wanted to say, okay, well, what are we getting for this fee? What's the benefit to the town?
Okay. If I could just quickly, and then I know this is a public hearing, but just quickly, was there anybody that felt strongly one way or the other about this, about waiving part of the fees? Jen?
I'm agreeable with the way that it's presented. I'm agreeable with the way that it's presented currently, but where it was left off at the last meeting was for there to be a drafted agreement that stated exactly what the parameters were. Some of the points that I've noticed in this item is what happens after 15 years. So the water fee was calculated on 15 years of usage. I just want to ensure that this is an indefinite agreement. The fees have been set and are forever, it's just a done deal indefinitely.
Like a perpetuity
Yeah,
thing?
in perpetuity, and I didn't see that anywhere in there, and that was, that. But with that, sure. Okay,
And that was actually the intent, was to use it in perpetuity.
great, okay, so since we don't have a town attorney, is this something that needs to be drafted up? Or,
Brian, thoughts? Susan?
Well, we actually had a draft of the agreement, but we, I guess, chose that we wanted to give it a second look, and I think that with Ryan, and we actually are kind of using legal advice when we're drafting these things, but we were quite ready to put it in the packet, but it was in perpetuity.
Perpetuity.
Yeah, it was forever.
okay,
Forever, that's a good word, too. Okay.
and Katie?
And that would run with the land.
Correct, correct. And that was one of the important things, is to make it run with the land.
Anybody else on this side where I never look? Yes?
I have a question, but not about this.
Okay.
Are you okay with that? So you said no kids, no fees? Is that what you said?
As far as the school land dedication fees or any potential daycare fees that would be assessed.
Okay.
That's correct.
I understand your rationale.
Other fees go, but.
Right. I understand your rationale. But I don't agree with the rationale. How much are the fees? Do you know?
I did not bring that. I know that,
It's about 1,300 per unit.
Okay, so 1,300, 3 units, it's less than $4,000. Okay.
it's pretty insignificant.
Okay. Well, I would just recommend that we continue with the fees, and that, you know, we can't pick out who owns what and whether or not they have children. We all need to be part.
But part of the code, there is a code requirement, if I can respond to that, is that children are not typically allowed to reside in the units within an industrial zone district unless that is a special item approved through special review. So, excuse me, that would be suggesting that they could open this up to children residing in the units. And so, by following, you know, I guess the way the code is written, without requesting that through a special review, it would just default to kids not residing in the units.
May I jump in
Yeah,
with a follow-up
Okay.
question? So it's in the code this way that if it's a non-child unit,
Correct.
and I know in my lifetime there have been other units approved that were no children as well because of dangerous conditions or whatever. And are we following the precedent that has always been? I mean, is it been consistent with anything that was approved with no children?
You know, we added this to the code back in 2007 as a recommendation from the P&Z. But it's really been a standard practice of the town, like when we had senior housing and stuff, not to charge school land dedication. But I also, if I have the opportunity, it wasn't $400 a unit, it's $1,300 a unit for the school land
Yeah, so
dedication
less
fee.
than $4,000.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you said
Yeah.
400, you were dividing,
Right,
sorry.
exactly.
But I would just say that that's been a consistent policy in the past, like the senior housing when we did the CCRC, is when you don't have children. In the other units where we didn't allow children, In the industrial park, we didn't charge school and
So
dedication fees.
the code language basically says that.
Basically, yeah, I mean, if you're not having children in there, you're not having an impact on the schools, and that's what it's based on.
All right.
Any,
Can I
Just 1 second. I'm just gonna
Just
go back to
feel that-
Katie first.
We collectively should benefit our schools whenever possible. We all benefit from our schools.
Jen?
How does it work on the devil's advocate side of the industrial zone district where children are not allowed? Can this occur in a residential area where someone, let's say, we're seeing 104 West Sopris, can they come to the table and say, we're not, in our deed restriction, we are not going to allow children, therefore we can skip the school? I just want to ensure that.
You're consistent? Is that what
Yeah.
your issue is? Well, we don't have those other applications in front of us, so it's hard to say what would happen. I would just kind of reiterate that it's been a standard practice of the town. The basic premise of school land dedication is how many school children are generated. And by way of example, on an ADU, it is 0 under our code because of the way that our code was built, that there wouldn't be children in there. So, you know, the basic premise of how you get to the school land dedication is based on a formula of how many kids are gonna be there.
And-
So it's a rational nexus. If you don't have the impact, you are not charging the fee.
And if I may just tack on to that, I think the distinction is this is an industrial district and, you know, the other one you talk about is in a residential district. So we may not have, you know, barring some circumstance I can't think of at the moment, may not have, we'd look at it through a different lens, I guess. And if somebody said, I'll put in this deed restriction, I don't want to have children in there just to get out of some fees. Well, when it's in a residential district, we'd probably say, that's not appropriate. We think children should fill up neighborhoods, but in this instance, it's a little different, so.
Okay.
Did you have something else?
Yeah, there is something else. So can we, I propose if, having the subplot line, the asterisk, if the applicant or the landowner requires SHEC, a special, I forget what SHEC stands for.
Special Housing Evaluation Committee?
Yes, Special Housing Evaluation Committee, and that it retroactively initiates the school dedication land fee. Okay? So
that would happen anyway, right?
would it?
You could add a language that if the applicant were to check that they have to be evaluated and pay the school land dedication fee, we could add that. I think Jeff is shaking his head yes.
Yep, that'll work.
Okay. Just to ensure, this is the safeguard double back up of, okay, the general big point of this is our Planning and Zoning Commission and Council, maybe not seated here, but in the past, did not want to have residential so much for children in the industrial zone so that it wouldn't gentrify. And here we are allowing housing, so it's occurring. So I just want to respect the history of those who else have sat at these seats and meet the middle ground of where we are all responsible for the well-being and education of our community children.
Okay, I think that we've kind of circled the wagons here on this one, but this item is consistent with code, and I would say that if anyone feels strongly about the fact that maybe everybody should be paying for the schools, then we consider a code amendment so that, you know, we're treating everybody the same. So.
That's fine. And what Jen's outlined, I think, is really a good
Will work.
backstop.
Okay. All right. So our discussion is really supposed to come after the public hearing. This is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing at 6:45. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment on this application? Going? Okay. I will close the public hearing. Go to council for further discussion or a motion.
Mayor, I move that the town council adopt ordinance number 6, series of 2018 on second reading.
Can we add the, would you add the language?
Well, I'm going to paraphrase it on condition number 13, an added sentence that says that if the applicant obtains approval from the Special Housing Evaluation Committee for, to have children in the site, that they will pay school land dedication fees.
With the added language.
Perfect.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Sarah. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Our next item is continued, is our next person here, Susan?
No.
Okay. Is a continued public hearing and second reading of ordinance 7, an ordinance of the town council approving amendments to the Basalt Vista Affordable Housing Project on the Basalt High School property. James. Hello, James.
Scott, you want to come up here?
Hello, Scott.
Sure.
Wow, it's everybody.
Okay. So we do, excuse me. So we have a whole team of applicants
Slew.
here
We like
this
to call it a
evening.
slew.
We've got Dana Dalabetta, we've got Scott Gilbert, and we've got Picken County representatives as well. Phyllis Matthijs. I just, my
It
brain
slipped. I
didn't
know, I'm
click
familiar.
there.
I'm familiar with slip.
Yeah. I know. This is a continued public hearing and second reading of an ordinance that would approve of amendments to the Basalt Vista Affordable Housing Project that was approved in late 2017. As background, the project received approvals for 27 affordable housing units just to the south of Basalt High School, right there. And it's a project that is a combination of applicants with the school district, Habitat for Humanity, and Picken County. As I noted at first reading, there's several amendment requests that are part of your ordinance that you're considering. The first is a request for the 12 Picken County units to abide by the Aspen-Picken County Housing Authority guidelines related to retirees in the units. This is an amendment because back in 2017, when the application was approved, there were representations that the units would not permit retirees to continue living in them when they retired from their employment. Council provided direction at the first reading of the ordinance that applying the APSHA guidelines to the 12 Picken County units was acceptable, so that's been maintained in the draft ordinance you're considering this evening. The other three requests that were described at the first reading is a change to the timing of the deed restrictions as kind of a cleanup item to allow for the deed restrictions on the units to be executed and recorded prior to the first building permit in the development. The second request was to remedy an error in the amount of the water tap fee waiver, as we discussed at the first reading, to include the surcharge amounts for the water taps instead of subtract them. And then the third and final request was also to clarify that the applicant's irrigation for the entire site would come from the 350 gallons that was allocated, 350,000 gallons that was allocated for the high school in their original agreement, and that it could be used for the irrigation months of May to October. Council wanted more information at the last meeting on how the project was going to conserve water. There's a memo that's in your staff memo. It discusses that there's going to be limits on the areas of landscaping to be irrigated, and that the remainder of the site will be native grass, Picken County native grass seed, so it doesn't require so much water. Basically, there'll be limits of 1,500 square foot of irrigated area per unit. And then There's also a condition that staff has included that they would abide by any water restrictions that the rest of the town is required to have on them as well. So with that, staff would suggest taking applicant comments and then asking any questions that the council has of staff and the applicants, and then taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and providing council discussion. Do you guys have any additional comments?
Scott
No,
always
thank you.
has additional comments.
Just thank you.
I guess questions.
Is that good? Okay, do you have any questions of these guys before we go open the public hearing? Okay, this is a public hearing. We will open it at 6:52-ish. Is there anyone in the public that has comments regarding this application for the Habitat housing project out by the high school? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, questions or motion? Questions or motion?
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 7, series of 2018 on second reading.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Well, much ado, right?
So is this it? So is it happening?
It's all good. Thank you very much.
When is it
Shovels
happening?
coming tomorrow?
Shovels.
Hopefully by May 15th, but James knows the real answer.
All right.
We're working on it. Working on it.
Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Okay.
Thank you.
So Chris and Boyd, if you guys could join us. And James, if you could pull up the...
Okay, ready? This is Resolution 7, a resolution of the town approving the East Valley Road Improvement Project and authorizing staff to enter into contract. Susan and Boyd.
So I'm going to start and kick it off, and then we're going to be joined by Chris Larriman and Boyd Beerbaum. So what I'm going to do
This is Chris.
Chris Larriman
Right,
from
okay.
SGM.
Right.
And I think you know Boyd
Thank
Beerbaum
you.
from
I
the
know
Public
Boyd.
Works Department. And what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to kind of give you a brief overview of what the project is and what the budget numbers are, and then Chris Larriman and followed by Boyd are going to talk about the public bid process, procurement, satisfying the procurement code. And then if we could open it up for public comment, it's not a public hearing, but I think that we have a member of the public that would like to speak. So this is our East Valley Road improvement project. The majority of the project is a traffic calming project. Here's Willits Town Center, here's Cypress Village, parcel 1. This is East Valley Road. The project goes from right at Lewis Lane and continues all the way past Evans Road right here. Next slide, James. I think the council has seen this graphic many times. It was included when the town council was approving the recent amendments to the Willits Town Center PUD, and it was kind of outlining the improvements. So what the traffic calming project involves is basically we're removing, in this slide you see the existing plastic chicanes that currently exist on East Valley Road. Those are removed. And then on the west side of East Valley Road, those become curb and gutter, and the park actually expands into these areas. So these areas become grass. And then on the east side of the road where the plastic chicanes are, those become a mountable curb that the fire department can drive over. And in the inside of that area here will be stamped concrete, colored to look like the concrete that's in the Willits roundabout, if you're familiar with that. So in addition to that part of the improvement, which is narrowing the lanes, pretty much what you see today, it's just a little bit wider. The fire department reviewed this and they wanted larger turn radiuses and a little bit more room. It also includes the stamped, actually scored, colored concrete pedestrian crossings across East Valley Road to the park. And that will look like RMI, where you see the colored concrete and then it's scored. There's also a speed table that is just south of Evans Road. And then when you enter the neighborhood over here at Lewis Lane, there is the scored pedestrian crossing. But where those bus bays are, those are actually bus bays where people park. There'll be some colored concrete, and that's to kind of give this visual cue that you're entering the residential neighborhood. There at one time was a pedestrian light over here at Lewis Lane. We removed that from the bid package after the town council had the discussion about the Harris Street, East Valley Road improvements, and there was a concern about the traffic signal light during those discussions. So there's also was an issue with the model traffic code and the light that we showed here. They don't permit that anymore for some legal reasons, and we were kind of fumbling at looking at alternatives and just given the council discussion. And the other issue that was facing us was we were very concerned about what the bids were going to come in at, and we were looking at cost estimates based on projects that we had in the town, based on what was happening up in Aspen. And so when we bid it as a base bid, and then we had this traffic table. It was in the Alt 1 plan. Alt 2 was the additional crossings that you kind of see in this red pattern. And then Alt 3 included a mill and overlay, which we're not really kind of considering as part of the real traffic calming project. But we did the bid process, and we were very successful, and we got 3 really competitive bids that Chris will go into in more detail, but we're able to pull off the entire project. Next slide, James. This is just the detail of what the overall site plan looks like. Next slide. This is showing the money. This is exactly the same table that's in your plan. When I pulled it over, it kind of formatted it nicely. But the base bid here is this $443,000 and $919. That's the base bid. The overall project's this $516,671. And that's a up to number. There's a couple pieces of this that are kind of up to numbers. By way of example, the Public Works and the town manager wanted to do some concrete repair while they were in there. That's at $9,500. Next slide, James. These are just some overall highlights. The total project cost is this $517,000. The bids being recommended to Old Castle Southwest Group. They're known really as United Companies. The portion that is the East Valley Road traffic calming is this $421,000. That's a up to not to exceed. The mill and overlay is the $86,000, and I already mentioned the concrete repair. Why don't you just flip it to the first sheet, James? No, just the first sheet, just while we're talking. So that's really, I think, the highlights that I wanted to highlight. We budgeted $425,000. And if you remember on the Willits Town Center approvals, we had the developer pay up to half of that with a cap of $200,000. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Chris and Boyd.
We had to run through a competitive bid process to meet the Colorado state law, And we advertised the project for 4 weeks. You have to do it for 2 weeks, so we qualified for that. We had 3 bidders provide bids. Low bid was United Companies at $443,918, and that's for the base bid and all 3 of the alternates. And we had 2 other bids, Johnson Construction out of Rifle at $473, and Excavation Services out of Carbondale at $542. We interviewed United, and they provided us a list of references. They provided us their subcontractors and a project schedule. We checked references, went through their whole schedule, manpower. Their schedule is basically start in July and be done mid-October, which the requirement was to be completely done by November 1st. We talked to them about their pricing, and we believe they're the lowest responsible qualified bidder. And Boyd had experience with them. They did the underpass for us last year.
And a big concern, you know, we check with them and make sure we would have on-site representation from their company and, you know, from Public Works representative will be down there every day. We'll be trying to do a lot of public information, letting people know what's going on, because it's going to be inconvenience for that period like it is with any construction. So we're just keeping everybody in contact, and communications is the best way to keep it top on, you know, keep everybody's feelings in check and let them know what's going on. And it is what it is. So I'm looking forward to it. It's I think it's been going on a while, and we're finally getting to the finish line.
They gave us a sense of that they could get the job done. They had answers to everything. So we recommend that the town enter into a contract with United Companies.
That answers to everything, flags should go up. No, I'm kidding. No, I think they did a great job on the underpass, so. Okay, did you have anything else?
No, I
Susan?
just
Okay.
was just gonna suggest that we take public comment or offer it up. We may not get any public comment, but,
Did you have a quick question, or do you
I
want
had
to
a
wait till after?
question.
Okay.
Well, if you want, like.
I was just gonna see if there's anybody in the public that wants to make a comment regarding this project in Willits? No? I don't see any takers. Gary?
So my question really goes into the, you know, the CIP for 2017. I mean, it says you feel the project is generally consistent with the CIP. Can you explain that a little bit more?
well, Ryan asked me to, why I use that word, and really, 2 reasons. One is that we put it as a 2017 project, and we weren't able to pull it off in 2017, so that was the main reason. We also had it in there for $405,000, and we were originally we were envisioning a slightly different plan than we had here, and of course, prices of, you know, we weren't basing that on bids, so that's why I use that language.
Okay, that works.
Anybody else? Jennifer?
So if we were on the CIP, if there was $405,000 allocated, where is the remaining $112,000?
Well,
coming
one
from?
is originally we were thinking that we were gonna get about $138,000, I think, from Willits Town Center. And when we did the recent amendments, we got $200,000. And we're planning on using the remaining piece, a mixture of Willits RETA and Willits impact fees. And we've seen quite a bit of development in Willits recently, so we have a good collection of fees. So we have plenty of restricted funds to make up the difference.
Okay. And with that, are there any general funds going towards this, or is it all being funded from restricted funds and allocated funds specifically for this project?
Well, the capital project is the $425,000. That's coming from restricted funds. The $86,000 that is the mill and overlay, and the $9,500 that are coming from the concrete repair, that's not coming from restricted funds. That's coming from the town's streets and maintenance part of their budget, which they had. I put the overall number that they have in the budget, but that's where those funds are coming from. But they're also budgeted funds.
Thank you.
Good.
I have further.
Sure.
So who is doing the project management? With the underpass, granted, this project is far smaller in scope than the underpass. But in that case, we partnered with Pitkin County and hired them, exchanged monies for them to do the project management. Is Public Works or who's doing the
It'll
project management?
primarily be Matt and myself and the on-site supervisor or foreman.
Thank you. Good job.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess if I had to come away with this and tell you anything, we were surprised that we got 3 bids in the nature of everything. And we were really pleased with the bids and the fact that they were close. That means they're competitive. So we feel like we got a really good deal for the town on this.
And you feel confident in going out there and handing out bubble gum and checking the work?
Yeah.
All right.
Organic bubble gum.
Great. And then I noticed on the drawings up there that some of the speed limit signs stated 18 miles per hour, but it's
No.
currently 25 in that area.
I'm sorry, I was using that, I should have marked out, I didn't notice on that graphic that they had that. No, we took, the bid package does not include the 18 miles per hour. That was definitely something that got nixed in the process. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it. I was trying to use a colored graphic because it's easier to understand. I didn't catch that that still had on there, so I apologize that.
Sure, no worries. And then the final one, where are the plastic chicanes going? Are there other neighborhoods that are these reusable?
We were talking about putting them on the east end of Sopers down there.
Yeah, you know that there's a lot of people sitting at this table over there. There's a steep hill that people just rally their cars on. But are they reusable? Is Public Works
We can
going to
use
hold
them
on
in
to them?
different situations because they're kind of made to get run over, but not. But like those, we have to replace them every so often, like after winter snow plowing and when a teenager with a big bumper decides to have some fun or something like that. And so, yeah, we'll definitely keep them in stock and reuse them.
Okay, great.
I think you two should meet up for a couple, 3 hours. Get all this stuff out. Okay, if there's no more, is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that town council adopt resolution number 7, series of 2018.
Is there a second? Okay, further discussion, except for Jen? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great work. Thank you very,
Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Nice, Boyd.
Would y'all like me to tell the TV lady that there's nobody up here named Mike? She keeps saying
Mike.
Mike.
Ha ha ha, that's funny, Boyd. Okay, my secret instruction list got buried under my piles, so I'm late, but I want to thank Grassroots TV for being here and for broadcasting our meetings live. People can watch them on grassrootstv.org after the meeting. And also, our videographer this evening is Amy Gob. I knew I would get that one wrong. And also, the mayor's coffee is tomorrow morning at Starbucks at 8 a.m., and I will happily buy you coffee if you will come, unless you're elected. Just kidding. Okay, so we're at the point where we're going to be doing the swapping of the baton here. So I just wanted to say a couple words after I take a deep breath and some water for my coaches. First of all, I want to say that I've been very, very lucky and very proud to serve with this group of individuals who have demonstrated that they have all different kinds of talents and strengths, and we, I think, balance each other really well. And we've also done a lot in the last couple of years. Number one, and the most important, is we hired Ryan Mahoney. He is great, and I don't feel like we could have done any better. We built the Basalt Underpass, which was school kids looking to get killed if we did not do that, and yet it took forever to get it done after the high school was built over there, but it did get done, and I have to give a lot of credit to this council for pushing and pushing. We also approved 56 deed-restricted units, Real America, which are the least expensive for the lowest income people in our community, and I am super proud of that. And we also approved 77 deed-restricted units in Willits. So we did a ton, and there are people out there that say we haven't done anything, but I remember that's not true. It's been quite good. So, specifically, I wanted to recognize Mark and Bernie and hand out a thing to them. So Mark is great because I begged him to serve, and I think I begged him through one term where he told me no and actually didn't run. And then I kept begging him at City Market, and he did run. Super happy that he is here with us. He's great because he's half elected and half staff. So he brings a perspective to this council that really, well, actually, there is one other person that brings that, that same thing, but he really, really cares about staff, and he really, really cares about the community. Whenever I think of Mark, I think of the salt of the earth, common sense guy. He is someone I always turn to for what is the regular person really give a shit about Mark, and he always knows. He puts his family and his community first, which I admire tremendously. And lastly, he tells great jokes. They're not always great, but usually they're great. So I have something for Mark. We wouldn't, I'll just whip one of these out here and just say, thank you for
Thanks,
everything
Jackie.
you've done.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
You gotta say something.
He's
I
happy.
just did, that's
He's
it.
really happy.
Speech. Well, this guy.
Goes with
he's
you,
going
goes with you. Okay, so Bernie Grauer, my dear friend. Bernie is great because he is super pragmatic, which is pretty much the opposite of me. I'm flying around at 30,000 all the time. He is the homework king of the universe. The man reads the stuff, and then he reads it backwards, and then he reads it forwards again, and you can count on him to know what is in that packet. And I'll be honest, that's not always me. He brings P&Z to his council perspective because Bernie spent a long time on the Planning Commission. Kind of like Mark brings staff, Bernie brings the Planning Commission in here, and I think that helps us all in our decision-making. He's neutral, he listens to all, and can change his mind with new information, and does sometimes, right? He brings ideas to the table because we get into a very reactive mode here where we just eat what we're fed, more or less, whatever's on the agenda. But Bernie actually brings new ideas to the table, not that other people don't. Auden is great about that as well. For instance, the smoking ordinance, to make it a law that you have to be 21 and to add a tax to that was single-handedly done by Bernie, and obviously staff got hooked onto that, but for the most part, Bernie pushed that till it happened, and it won by a landslide, so it was clearly something the community thought was important. Bernie and Mark will be missed on council, but they'll be here for the community now and into the future. We offer many thanks to them for the long nights and commitment they have given to Basalt the last 4 years, and
Thank you.
Thanks, Bernie.
this is your chance if you wanted to say a few words, either Bernie or Mark.
I don't.
Way to end strong.
Can we
Bernie,
say it for you?
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I'll just say it was an honor to have served with this council. It was a, very good collegial working group, and a lot of things were accomplished and passed. And just for me personally, I'm just proud the council passed raising the smoking age to 21 from 18, and I'm delighted with the voters for overwhelmingly passed the additional tobacco taxes. So I've enjoyed my time here.
Okay, so don't go anywhere right this second. In fact, if the outside edges could come stand with us, and we're gonna ask James to get a photo of this council, but if we could get a little closer, that would be great. Would you guys on the end come in? Did you want to say something, Auden?
Yeah, I will after.
Okay, all right. Oh, shall we all stand?
Maybe Ernie and Jackie, yeah. You two get close. You three get close.
All right, all right.
I don't know about
Wait a minute, something's wrong.
All right, 1, 2, 3, cheese.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Let's take one more. 1, 2, 3, cheese.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Basalt.
Yay, Basalt. Okay, so we are going to do the swearing in, and so if Bernie and Mark want to take a place in the audience, and please stay for the cake if you don't mind. Okay, that sounded like a promise if I ever heard one. So I guess we need to have Bill come up. And Gary, that's right. I can't forget he doesn't just get to slide through.
Right?
No.
So both of them have chosen to take the same oath, so we will oath them at the same time. Oh, she needs a mic. She's,
Oh, Gary?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not sure either. What about this one? If I stand,
Gary's got it.
if I
Gary's
stand
got
close
one.
to this, can you stand over there? All right.
Okay, is that better? Okay. So if you'll raise your right hands, please, and repeat after me. I state your name.
Gary
William
Tenenbaum,
Infante,
Do solemnly declare
do
solemnly declare
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Colorado,
and of the state of Colorado,
and faithfully perform
and faithfully perform
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Basalt Town Council,
of Basalt Town Council,
upon which
upon which
I am about to enter.
I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Welcome back.
How fun is that, right?
Thank you very, very much.
Welcome to the club.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
All righty.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Uh-huh.
So Bill, you can come up and grab a chair.
Where's assigned seating? Do we change our seats?
We're gonna let people sit wherever they want, right this minute. Yeah. Sit wherever.
I will take my cues from you, Pam.
Thank you.
Sarah, you might as well just come on up.
Sign yours, sir, as well.
Gary, Pam, or Galen, or both, or?
Okay.
I don't really care.
There you go. Okay.
Change?
Hi, Harry. How's it
Bill
going?
works.
Put Ryan next to Jackie. Put Ryan next to you.
Okay, so we do have some work here, one
There
little
you go.
tiny piece for our new council. And this one is public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 8, an ordinance of the town granting special review approval for the development of an accessory dwelling unit on a parcel located at 105 West Cypress Drive, Reese. Who's Reese?
Reese application.
Barbara Reese.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I knew that wasn't Reese. All right. Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is a first reading of ordinance number 8, request for special review at 105 West Cypress Lane. The property is located in the R3 TN zone district. We are dealing with a parcel here where the star is. It has 3 street frontages. To the north, we have Cypress Drive at the front. We have the side on Spur Lane and the rear on Tucker. And the applicant is proposing to demolish the current single-family home that's on the site and replace it with a new single-family home and add a detached garage at the rear with an ADU on the site. And the ADU is permitted through an R3TN zone district through special review only. So that is why we're here today. Give you a little overview of what the site is looking like. The current site is here. You can see I've outlined the bulk of the main home in yellow. And they are looking to, again, scrape and replace and add this new single-family home and the detached garage with an ADU on the second floor at the rear of the site. The ADU is a fairly modest floor plan. It's 440 square feet. We're looking at a one-bedroom with a bathroom and a kitchen living area off of that. And they do have a nice sizable outdoor deck at that second floor. Just want to run you through quickly through the elevations just so you can see what this looks like. This is what we'd be looking at on Tucker Lane down here at the southern elevation where they'd pull in from the Tucker Lane at the rear of the site. Again, the garage is at the bottom floor and they could take the stairs up to the second story ADU. So, at the main house elevations, you're looking at the site as a whole. So we have the main home in the front and the ADU at the rear. And that's all the pictures I have to show you, but maybe we can take it back to the site plan. So if you have any questions on that. And so staff has found this to be consistent with the goals and objectives of the Basalt Master Plan, which is to provide a variety of housing types and options. This type of housing does enhance Basalt's character to be a diverse and inclusive community, and it is consistent with the objective to integrate ADUs into the neighborhoods. It's also been found to be consistent with the neighborhood's character. We have the single family, again, at the front of the site, the garage at the rear. It's a pretty typical pattern of development. It's consistent with that character and style that's found throughout the neighborhood. At 20 feet, it is subordinate to the main house by 4 feet, which is a requirement of the code for ADUs. It does meet all of the dimensional requirements for the R3 TN zone district. There's no variations being requested. They are providing 4 on-site parking spaces, which is the requirement, 1 for the ADU, which would be at the garage at the rear of the site, accessed off of Tucker, and 3 at the front of the site, accessed off of Sopris. They do have an attached one-car garage at that main home as well, so 2 would be exterior and 1 would be interior. The applicant is interested in deed restricting this property so that one of the 2 dwelling units must be occupied as the primary residence, and staff will require the deed restriction to be recorded prior to the issuance of CO for the ADU. We've received a number of referrals and everything has flushed out really well. The one is that we'd have to revisit is the fire department. They did perform a site visit. There are some tree limbs and communication lines that are found to impede the access to Tucker Lane. So those branches are required to be removed. They will reassess the communication lines to make sure that those aren't too low, that they meet the code requirement. And this is all going to need to be mitigated prior to the receipt of CO, again, for the ADU. Holy Cross does plan on coming out this summer and doing their normal sweep of their lines, and so they are looking to cut down those branches on behalf of the applicant and for the residents on Tucker Lane. So P&Z was able to review this application at their public hearing on April 17th. They did vote in unanimous support of this application, and staff as well does support this application. And so we are looking for feedback this evening and to adopt the ordinance upon first reading, as well as to set the second hearing for the reading on May 8th. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Harry here at the table. And I apologize, I don't think I actually introduced Harry Teague, the architect for the project. And any thing he'd like to add or any questions we take.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Thank you, Sarah.
Sure.
And thank you for listening to this. I do think that the ADU is, as I said, it adds to a sort of an existing character of this part of the town, and the architecture, as you may recognize, sort of imitates the wonderful little tiny cabins and cottages that were built during the railroad period with a pyramid-shaped roof and a flat top to it, and makes it kind of cute, I think. Just by the way, this screen is stretched, so everything looks a lot wider and longer than it actually is. If you
look at that one,
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's actually quite a bit more vertical, as is the main house, which looked quite large, and the other one is actually not. They're all very carefully designed to fit into the sort of the character of the neighborhood. But that, as you know, Tucker Lane has a bunch of, little house, John Fox Rubin's house, and
Right.
Several other ADUs along that area on one side and the other side. And this, I think, is a positive addition to the inventory on Tucker Lane.
Right.
Cute little lane.
It is.
I can, speak totally impartially because I'm diagonally across from my own house.
Right. Okay, is that
I think
your?
it's a great idea.
Is that your presentation, more or less?
That's my
Okay.
presentation.
So if,
I'd love to answer any other questions.
yeah, if you have questions, let's ask staff and Harry questions, but let's save discussion till after the public hearing. Questions?
I have one. Sarah, what building code requirements will this be? Is this the new building code requirements? Have those gone into effect?
No, they have not. They actually, I believe, well, we did continue the first reading on those this evening, so until May 8th. And so whatever code is effective at the time of approval, the 30 days after second reading approval.
Actually, it'd be
would
at the
be-
time that they, I'm sorry, I should have jumped in, but when you submit for the permit will be the code that they're gonna be applicable to. And just as a clarification, the current building codes, because I wasn't quite sure what your question was, but we did adopt all the amendments, and we're now under the 2015 Energy Code and the other portions of the building code. It's, and they're covered by the current regulations on sustainability regulations. It's the amendments that we're proposing, and, it's possible that those will apply or not apply depending on when they say it.
Okay.
Thanks for that clarification. I was
Sorry,
so
I wasn't sure
focused-
what Jen
I was so focused on
question really was.
sustainable, so
Yeah.
you're right.
I recognize
you.
that we're in a transition, and I just want to ensure that you as the homeowner are aware of, and architect,
Thank you.
that there is a transition occurring.
No, we don't have a 6-week grace period. It's, no. There's a, right. Yeah. I mean, there's an effective date on the ordinance. We can go through that.
Right.
Between first and second reading, so you understand the timing.
Okay, anybody else have a question? If not, this is a public hearing, opened at 7:30. Are there people in the audience who would like to make a comment regarding this application? This is the time. Really, all these people? No, okay. Then we will close the public hearing and go to council for discussion and a motion.
I have another question, and that is, other residences on Tucker Lane have been required to have the ceiling sprinkler systems. Is that all new construction in Basalt, or is that just a Tucker Lane?
It's just the section of Tucker
East
Lane
Tucker.
that's, no, but it's not this section.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, it's the section on the other side. And it was part of the incentive for the fire department to, in order to not have to have sprinklers, the fire department wanted to be able to get certain trucks through the alley, and they
Right.
discovered that the trees had grown over the alley, so that's their concern. And it shouldn't just affect this unit, but in fact, the other units on Tucker Lane, they should be accessible as well. So that's, I think it's a good step for everyone, yeah.
It is. Thank you for clarifying that. Yep.
So that knowledge,
And then I have another question about landscaping requirements. So I know within City of Aspen and Pitkin County that you have to have landscaping completed in order to get C of O. We do not do that here in Basalt. And I adore some of the apricot trees that are on that property. And selfishly, in our neighborhood, we have so many amazing apricots. They also attract wildlife. And I just wanted to hear, is there anything in the landscaping plan? Are you going to maintain those historic trees, or are you going to scrape the entire parcel and start anew?
So what I would love to do is to have my client speak to that, because
Okay, could
she's
you
equally
get on a mic?
passionate about that as
Come on
well.
over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are absolutely going
Barbara Reese.
to maintain all of the apricot trees.
Okay, great.
And she's
Actually-
hired a special tree
Right.
person to come and.
Who's very, very good on fruit trees. And I realize that one of them is one of the older trees in the neighborhood, and he has been very careful in pruning it and getting it back to its original, not original shape, but it's giving it help.
Yes. Great, I commend you for that, and I greatly appreciate you maintaining the heritage of the neighborhood.
Anybody else?
I move that the town council.
Wait, I think Anya's
No,
mouth
I
was
just,
half
I'm,
open.
no.
All
I
right,
like the project. I like infill on that street. That's great.
all right. Okay, go again.
Okay. Now, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 8, series of 2018 on first reading, continue and set the public hearing and second reading for May 8th, 2018.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll see you again.
There
So
you
I thought
go.
I heard somebody asking questions back there. I don't know who it was, but,
Galen,
okay, there will be another reading of this and it,
she's the architect.
She's on the applicant's team, she's one of the architects.
oh. All right.
That's okay, we'll,
Yeah, later. Okay.
Thank you for asking, because it's very important to,
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that was all of our business.
First
We are
decision.
going
Thank
to
you, Neil.
adjourn to the
Yep.
reception in
Oh,
the front
man,
lobby.
empowering.
Mayor, I move that the town council adjourn the meeting. Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome to your second vote.
There you go.
Yes.